What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Stereo Therapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and this is episode 105. Today on the show, I was joined by Kris Russ. I have to shout out my friend Gibby of Unsigned Pop Punk. He suggested Kris, talked about our show to Kris, and Kris reached out to us, and we got this wonderful conversation. Just a little disclaimer before we begin this episode. I am really nasally. I was coming off of a horrible cold, the flu, whatever the heck it was. It was really awful. So it sounded a little nasally in this, so just a little heads up in that. But this was a really great conversation surrounding mental health and music, the impact of music, Kris's music, and also in how sometimes music and the industry can be negative to our mental health. A lot of times on here, we talk about how music has been so impactful in a positive way, but I was really glad that Kris brought up the other side, which I'm sure a lot of musicians can relate to. So I don't want to take up any more time. This is a bit of a longer one, but for a great reason. Here's my conversation with Kris Russ. What was it for you to connect you to music?
I have two different answers to that, and they both kind of like they collide eventually. And the first time I ever fell in love with music, my mom was gonna go to school for music and everything, and she had like a full ride to a prestigious college and everything. We won't talk about anything like that because she decided ultimately not to pursue it because she had me. It was Tim McGraw, Don't Take the Girl, and we were singing it in the car, and I was like, yay big, you know. I was this size up until I was 18. So so we're just singing it in the car, and I fell in love with music right then. I was like, wow, this can really this does stuff for people, you know? And ever since then, it's just been like, I loved music. I love music. And it's kind of like the universe kind of had like these weird ways of being like, you need to do this, you know, like this is your path. No matter how hard it is, you have something to kind of like present to people. And because like even in grade school, like my friends would be like, hey man, you should go and try to like play some musical instruments and stuff and like come with me to band practice and stuff. I'm just kind of like, why do I keep on ending up here? So then eventually I hear, oh man, I hear Saying Sorry by Hawthorne Heights. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do right here. And then because that feeling right there and that like emo awakening was just kind of like, yeah, this is you, but this is part of you. And then you also have this little area that you like where I pick up the acoustic and I'm like, hell yeah. And then I ended up falling in love with that entire like genre, and then it just opened up a whole different array of different types of things over the years. And I was just like, you know what? I like this. So what if I just put this? Or what if I take this and put this? And those two moments are like iconic to what drove me to a musical career. And it has not been easy, but it's worth it.
Ooh, yeah, like that's so cool to hear too, because I think we all do. For me, it was like my mom and hearing like Meatloaf, like big Meatloaf fan, and then hearing then down the road, then hearing her be in love with like Bush and Gavin Rossdale, and that led me
Mhm.
down there. And then like the emo, like being in high school and hearing Hawthorne Heights,
Mhm.
or whether it was, oh gosh, who else? I can name so
Like
many of them. Like
Dashboard
third, yeah,
Confessional,
Dashboard
Mayday
was
Parade.
huge. Yeah, the dash and all of that was huge. Like Dashboard changed a lot because I was like, wait, this is just someone when he started, right, with just his guitar there. I remember seeing like MTV Unplugged
Hmm.
and that moment where everyone's singing and like there's again, this is bigger than just whoever. And at that time he wasn't huge, but then like MTV too and that emo wave, he did get a little because I think it was Hands Down. When Hands Down
Hmm.
came out, that was it for him. Like he was big, which I was happy for because I'm like, I love this so much. But it's wild to hear the people that grew up with that kind of emo wave to
Hmm.
now. Some people I know my age, I'm like, I just turned 39, which is wild to think about. But like the
Good
people
job.
around me that are
Good
sitting
job.
here, right? I'm like, I'm here. I'm like, oh gosh, 1 year to 40. Oh God. Then I'm really the elder emo.
Hey, 40s are the new 20s. You're fine.
Right? That's how I feel. I'm like, now I'm like, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that age. But now I'm like, no, that's cool. Because now
Hmm.
I don't give half the amount of like just care as I would in my 20s. Now I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't care. This is who I am. Where in my 20s, I definitely was not that way. I want to say I was not that way
Yeah.
at all. And it just is wild when I see other people my age not go through that emo wave because it was so important to like me
Yeah.
and so many like wild Hawthorne Heights, like they're still a thing.
Hmm.
They're
Oh
still, if
yeah.
not bigger, right, than they were, which is wild.
Yeah, me and my partner went, okay, so I did like a small like 4 day run, and then the
Yeah.
day after, like whenever I got back, I was exhausted. But
Hmm.
it was like This Wildlife, Armor for Sleep,
Yeah.
Thursday, Emery, Hawthorne Heights, and Anberlin all playing
Yeah.
for like $25 a person. And I was like, whoa. I was like,
Right.
and she bought the tickets by a surprise, and she was like, here we go, we're going. And I was like, oh hell yeah, let's go. We went and we saw that, and I love Armor for Sleep. Armor for Sleep
Hmm.
kind of like put me on some things. I love their lyricism and everything, but we went and saw them, and she was like, "They're not so good live," and I was like, "Yeah, that's the point." I was like, "It's fine, it's fine. Like, let them be," you know.
Hmm.
And I was like, "That's just kind of how it was. They weren't supposed to be these good bands.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a more modern thing." Where you're like, oh, you've got to be on time or da da da
Hmm.
da da da. And
Yeah.
I'm huge at making sure that my live performances sound either as good as the albums or as like or even better, giving
Hmm.
because that's so important nowadays. These bands are coming back out and like doing their thing, and people are like, what is this? And then, but their core fan bases are there and they're showing all these people. So eventually those names are still going to grow. And it's just
Yeah.
funny because we're probably like Hawthorne Heights and stuff are probably going to be like the AC/DC of our time and stuff, and nobody's gonna see that coming, but then eventually everybody's gonna be like, oh, they came out with this song, and then it's like the next Thunderstruck or something.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I can only imagine that. Yeah. Like already there's people at like Warped Tour, right? And
Mhm,
the announcements that are going on, and people are already like, I thought this was going to be a nostalgia fest. And I bet it will be part of it. But I'm like, you guys forget what Warped Tour was. We were just
mhm,
came up, especially me, like 2003, I think 2004 was my first Warped Tour.
mhm.
And you think about those bands and that emo wave, that pop punk wave, all of that. That's what was in that, the
Yeah.
target audience of Warped Tour is 18 to 24-year-olds. And
Mhm,
so that's what they're doing right now with this come up. Like that's
mhm,
what they're doing. Like, yeah, I can't name half the bands they're doing now, which is good. I want those bands to like succeed in the scene and everything. But like I think so many people are trapped in like a nostalgia, and I get it. I'm guilty of that too. But I'm happy to see new music, and that's like with the podcast pushing, hey, this is a newer artist. This is someone you don't know most
mhm.
likely. Here's that because like I do feel as much as emo and pop punk is so important in that wave, it's like the nostalgia is great, but like we need new fresh
Mhm.
artists out there, or otherwise we're not going to have in 5 to 10 years a scene.
Yeah, no,
We're
there's
not
not
going to
going to
have
be.
that.
Yeah, and it's all about perseverance right now. Like, like people like myself and everything. We're just as long as we keep going, eventually
Yeah.
something is going to like break. As long as we like make the right moves. If we're sitting on our couch and we're just like, oh, well, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow. Then obviously nothing's going to come of it from that. And every now and then you do get an artist that pops off, and they call them what do they call them? A lottery artist,
Hmm.
where they just like put something out there and all of a sudden like they're the next big thing.
Yeah.
But with like TikTok and like all of these fast-paced like social medias and stuff, like the way our brains are acting nowadays, it's so hard because you'll hear like a really great song, like
Hmm.
I think it was like Fever or something. There was like this song I discovered the other day, and it's still growing and they're still pushing it. And
Yeah.
but like you hear that song and then you're like, okay, and then you hear it again, and then you're like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, and then you hear it again, and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and download it. But to the average person, they're probably gonna hear it like 37 times and be like, I still haven't downloaded the song. So it's just like, and
Hmm.
it's just because of that attention span that we have nowadays. And a lot of people also don't even want this type of music. So you're trying to find like this niche audience.
Hmm.
It's such a battle. It's such a battle because you have like 100,000 artists every day just like trying to put themselves out there. And what separates this person from this person? Like what
Yeah.
separates me from this person? And it's just like a lot of people turn it into more of a competition rather than like,
Hmm.
and you say one little thing or you rub somebody the wrong way and they're already blasting you on the internet. So it's just kind of like, oh boy, how do you deal with all of this? And you just keep going. And that's what I
Yeah.
just have to keep on telling people.
Yeah, you see that. You see that a lot too, and the competition for sure. Like there, and I bet with TikTok, things like that, oh, your follower count and things of that nature make it more of that competition too. Or I'm sure when you're like apply, but when you try to get on certain slots or certain shows or certain even playlists, right, for Spotify, what are they going to go to?
Yeah.
Probably. Where is that? And like you said, some people aren't going to go download. Maybe they'll say they'll
Mhm.
hear, or some people don't even understand.
I had Kaylee Goldsworthy on, and I love Kaylee Goldsworthy. She's so wonderful. And like she was talking about how like the following of an artist is so important on Spotify and how many of us don't do it, like the follow button. They may listen,
Hmm.
but are they following and helping that artist in
Hmm.
that way? And I'm like, I had to go back and look. I'm like, you know what? I wasn't at that point. Like, I would
Hmm.
go and listen, and maybe I would hear that song, but would I be doing those little things to maybe help that artist? No.
Yeah. And
It's wild.
and that's even harder because then you also don't know who, like, are they going to come back and listen?
Yeah.
Like I have a very slow breach that's happening right now, to where I'm up to like 22 monthly listener, or not
Yeah.
monthly, but daily listeners at this point, and like 254 monthly listeners, which is by gracious, that's like double to almost triple what I had last year, and
Hmm.
that's saying something because I came out with two music videos. One was featured on BBTV. Well, I mean, and I Try was also featured on BBTV, but humble brag. But I came out with Choke, which was featured on BBTV. And then I came out with Bleed, which I ran out of funding, so I had to just release it on YouTube and was like, well, hope for the best. And
Hmm.
now I kind of have like more of an established team where I'm just kind of like, all right, throw this money here, and they're gonna be like, okay, cool, and they'll take care of the rest of everything. But it was tough to even get to that point, and they're not looking at the numbers. Like some people, we gotta, like, if you're having trouble with numbers, because everybody's like numbers, 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 numbers
Hmm.
nowadays,
Yeah.
and like venues are for sure, but what you need to find is you need to find the people that believe in you, like my manager. She believes in me. She
Hmm.
sees everything. She's already heard the entire album. She's like, this is amazing. I can't wait for this to come out. We got to figure out a way to push this, get on more podcast, yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada.
Yeah.
And my marketer is like, I don't know which one to push. And I'm like, what you mean? And he's like, all of them are good. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh. He was like, okay. I was like, okay, that's a compliment. He's like, all of them are good, but we need to find that one that's going to put that we can put here and watch it grow, so then we can hit up bookers. And
Hmm.
then they'll see that your stuff is growing, and then da 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 da. But all of these people, it took 5 years to find these reliable individuals, and it took countless nights of just like getting 3 hours of sleep, waking up, going and working, trying to work on this, doing this for like 5 years straight. And at the beginning, I didn't have much faith in myself, and I wasn't like vocally as strong as I am, and I wasn't as strong of a songwriter as I am now. Because right now we're currently in the studio. I know this is a lot. We're in the studio. We're working on 5 new songs, and we have them almost done. I got to go and lay down some vocals, and my guitarist has got to go and lay down some lead guitar on a few songs, and we're just gonna go ahead and run with that. And all of them are really, really good songs. I'm a little scared about the message because I
Hmm.
decided that I was going to go the Kendrick route with this stuff a little bit more, but make it
Hmm.
pop music and
Hmm.
a little bit more on the grungier side with certain things and see what happens. But my bassist went in, he laid down his stuff. He did really good. He took advice, whatever advice was. And then because me and the producer were both kind of like, hey, why don't you try this? Hey, why don't you try this? We kind of sat there and we broke down, dissected everything. So he was like having not only an enjoyable time, but creating something that was worth presenting to masses. And my drummer nailed it in like a day. And then I just went and put down the rhythm guitars within like the same, like in between those. And it's just, I don't think people really realize how much work goes into being an artist because they see like maybe no money, or they see like an artist out there that's got a label and stuff that's
Hmm.
funding them, not realizing that the label is throwing like $500,000 in cash at a TikTok to make it reach like 100,000 people, you know?
Right.
And one of my sounds took off the other day, which is the solo from Choke, which I was like, whoa, like this is great. This is game changing and everything. And
Yeah.
it only got it to like 100 extra people. And I was like, oh man, I was like,
Oh,
I thought this was it. Like, I was like, yes,
right.
you
Yeah.
know,
That's
it's
that's
just,
that's wild because it's like you think about I think yeah, a lot of people in doing this podcast I've learned just as the listener, like I listen to it, right? The final thing that comes out, I'm like, wow, that's really good. Not realizing all that goes into it, whether it's financially, mentally, right? Like all that stuff
oh man.
before it comes out and it's like all of that you put into it. And then again, if it doesn't maybe take off as much or it doesn't like I think I had oh gosh, who was it? I think it was a Noma. He's in the band Haunter. And
Okay.
I think he was talking about that, how like the day of the release, where everyone's like, yeah, like it's out, like all excited, like, and he was like, I was a ball of nerves because I just spent so long. We spent so long on this and the right team,
Mhm.
everything to push this, get this out there. And, you find out you're not on the playlist you thought you would be on, or you're not on this to help boost it. And he was like, I was filled with a lot of anxiety, a lot of this, and everyone around me was excited and happy for me, but I had to almost be like, this is how I am right now. Like, this is what it takes as an artist. You're putting yourself out there, and mentally, how that can really affect you. And I had no idea up until then, right? Like, I
Mhm.
didn't. I knew like my friends that play in bands, right? But and there's no judging. There's a place for this. They don't
Mhm.
want to go anywhere. They want to do their
Yeah.
thing and play over, and that's fine. That's cool. But like, it's like to meet people that, hey, you really do want to take this somewhere, and all the hoops you have to jump through and all of that. I'm like, to me, I'm like, I thought, okay, I'm just listening to a song. Great. Like maybe this took, I don't know, 2 weeks or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like I had no idea that there's so much to it. And you're probably hearing that song, but it took over a year or more
Yep.
to create. And it's like, I know how I feel like if I put an episode out or something out and I'm like, oh, I think this is such a great conversation. I'm so excited about it. And like, the first day I'll get, not as many listens as I thought. And I'm like,
Mhm.
immediately there goes my mental state. And that's
Mhm.
just a podcast episode. That's not something I've worked on for like a year or
Oh man.
more, and all the money. Like I don't put that amount into that.
Yeah, yeah, no, you have to figure out the algorithms for everything, which is the
Yeah.
worst part. And since I'm a solo artist, like yes, I
Hmm.
have the band and everything, and they come and they play and we practice and whatever, but I don't want to put anything on their like anything on their table because it is my project, you know.
Yeah.
And I just want them to travel with me, have a good old time, make
Hmm.
things happen. Like right now, I'm kind of looking for like a traveling guitarist and a traveling bassist. That way, me and the drummers can like get together and be like, okay, so this is exactly how it's gonna go. All of us are gonna go here, 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 and here, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna come back home and we're just gonna live life. Because after doing that first run, I felt like I felt euphoric. Like
Hmm.
like, and we anywhere we went, it, it was kind of like that imposter syndrome. And I know a lot of people probably talk about that nowadays
Yeah.
because like it's starting to get to me bad because I'm sitting here going like, oh, nothing's happening, but here I am sitting on a podcast here.
Hmm.
Like I was on Unsigned Pop Punk's
Yeah.
podcast, and like these little things that are happening are like kind of like the story, but it's just like the depression, the like having to face my own mental disorders, having to like face the internet, having to lose fans, gain new fans, move in a different direction. What is my message? All this other stuff. The business end is a chokehold. Oh my gosh. I like
Hmm.
my partner sees it all the time. She's like, or and she even brought it up today. She was like, around releases, you get like really stressed out and you're tough to deal with. And I'm like, thank you, for being
Hmm.
honest with me and everything. And
Yeah.
I'm going through like a weird financial thing right now. Not to put too much business out there, but
Yeah.
like I haven't received my money yet. So I'm like sitting here
Hmm.
going like, where, and I have to deal with all of that stuff on the end, that end.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of these things, as you said it earlier, that like it's just like all of these things keep hitting. And it's just like that's how it's been for a lot of people lately. So I can only relate to my perspective of everything, but that's why I've been kind of like, okay, so what do I need to care about? And what do I just need to let ride? So I'm like, okay, so put on a show, right? What do I need to care about? Just being prepared for that show as much as possible.
Yeah.
Uh, what around this show should I really be doing? And I was like, you know what? Let's be a little lenient on the promotion. Don't be so pushy. And my last show was pretty big. Like it was
Hmm.
actually like a pretty like it was a small little bar. And all three bands that were performing definitely like pushed out and everything. It was a band from Lafayette, a band from here, and then me. And I don't really consider myself a New Orleans artist because
Hmm.
I like to travel. And I'm already setting up things in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and that entire area. I don't perform in New Orleans a lot because it's really hard to gain traction here if you're playing here all the time.
Hmm.
Like if you're playing on Bourbon Street every night, that's different. Okay,
Yeah.
you're bar gigging and everything, and that's great if
Right.
that's what you want to do. What I want to do is a little different, to where I want to be kind of like not a household name, but I want to be able to being out there artists to where
Mhm.
there's like people that are like, oh, have you heard this guy? Or like
Yeah.
they're like, I'm gonna gatekeep this guy for a little
Yeah.
while, you know, like things
Hmm.
like that. I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
cool. So like whenever it comes to shows and everything, I've started being a little bit more lenient and less desperate on the promotional side, and it's starting to feel like it's working a little bit more. It's like, oh, okay, he does have a show coming up. Oh, okay, and I invite the same seven people over and over again, and they just bring out friends, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm coming out. And then whenever I'm going somewhere else, I hit up a few friends in the area. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be in town. What's fun to do? Also, playing a show, you know, and it seems like my brain talks me out of it sometimes because it's like you're being manipulative and I'm like no, because the goal is to just hang out with these individuals. So like
Hmm.
what is the line between what I'm trying to do, trying to involve the people that I want with me in there, and then also like giving them my art is what I do. Like that is not a part of me. That is what I am. So like
Hmm.
that's not manipulation, it's vulnerability. And I
Yeah.
just want to open up myself to these certain amount of individuals and like whoever they bring with them and hope that they find it enticing. They hearing me pour my entire freaking heart out into a microphone and a guitar and just hope to God or some higher being that they enjoy anything that I'm laying out. And that means just one person. Because if just one person walks away, even if it's the bartender, walks away, likes one song, that makes me happy. That's it.
Hmm.
That's all I need. It's the very bare minimum. But whenever it was me and my drummer for the first two nights, and then it was the rest of the band for the next two nights. And every show that we played, it was like, well, besides one of them, but it was because it was like a crowd of 100 plus. And at that point, you're like, what do you do? Like, not everybody's gonna like it, but majority of
Hmm.
people were dancing and grooving and like obviously feeling this. So I was like, okay. And then we came home, went and saw them, and all those people were feeling like they knew what they were there for. And it's like every time I go out to a bigger show, I'm like, okay, I need to do that. That is what I need to be like. That's how good I need to be.
Hmm.
And you know, whether or not it's just putting on the show or whether or not it's talent, period. And I'm losing myself a little bit. The ADHD is like crazy, but like
Yeah.
having people come up to me and be like, "Man, that was amazing," just had me like, "Huh? Like I did that.
Hmm.
Like how do I feel good about this? Like now I feel like pulsated. Like is this really happening? Like are these people really like messing with me and
Yeah.
everything?" You know, and then I see them streaming my stuff and I see people sharing my stuff and I'm just kind of like, you guys are really like enjoying what's going on here. Well, thank you for that, you know. And I've had a few like I don't know what to call them at this point. I'm gonna try to like figure it out. But like fake supporters,
Hmm.
which is the weirdest thing, because they'll be like, "Oh man, yeah, I'm coming out to the show," and then like 9 shows later, you finally
Oh.
get it there. And I'm like, "Heck yeah, bro!" But then you find out that they've been kind of like not promoting you and not like trying to
Hmm.
push you out there and everything. And it's made me take a step back because like I'm supporting these people. I'm trying to like be cool and it's not like tit for tat or anything, but the moment I feel like that you're moving shadily, I've been actually genuine with you at this point. It's a gift, you know,
Hmm.
and you're moving shady on me, which means that this isn't transactional. It's not meant to be transactional. It's meant to be genuine. And you are like you're fucking up the the ability and you're messing me over because for whatever reason you want to. I don't care where it comes from, it's still a reason that you're messing me over. So now I got to cut you off. You know, like I was promoting a show a few months back or like a couple weeks ago and I was promoting around and I found a mutual person in between. This kind of messed with my mental health for a good bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I found a mutual person between another mutual person that supported me since like day one. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so I was trying to message this person and be like, hey, you guys should all come out to the show. I know. And this person got like weird about it. And I was like, I'm just inviting you out to a show. And then one person started like that guy started attacking me and being like, why are you messaging people? Like, why are you trying to like da 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 da? Da? I was like, what do you mean, dog? Like, I'm just trying to promote a show. Like, what do you
Right.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
and I guess it was like, because then I found out a lot of other information. I was like, oh, I don't feel like dealing with this type of individual. Like, this is
Yeah.
not an individual that is trying to do anything. This is just an individual that wants to be surrounded by chaos.
Hmm.
And I don't feel like dealing with that. I don't feel
No.
like, and a couple weeks later, they came back and they tried to apologize. And I was like, I just ignored it. I was like, I'm
Hmm.
not letting you come back in, bro. It's not happening. Sorry. And it's just like little moments like that that they don't realize that they're talking to a person. You know,
Hmm.
it's different if the person deserves backlash, then that's fine. And there's very like certain things that happen, and I can't really like state those types of things in a personal opinion, but there's certain types of things that deserve repercussion. But
Hmm.
promoting a show and stuff like that isn't
Yeah.
that's not something that deserves like repercussion. That's like, bro, you should be happy that it's getting to a point to where these people have started
Hmm.
to know me, but
Yeah.
now you're like, you really just wanted to hold me back. And I'm finding that out through other people that you're just like, oh, about this. So I was like, you know what? Washing my hands. I'm just going to go ahead and keep doing me. And I went viral like 2 days later on a
Oh,
Facebook
wow.
post. And like, well, I won't say like viral, but like
Yeah.
semi-viral, like 500,000 people and whatever witnessed what I posted. And it was just kind of like that was an opening. I was like, okay, cool. So not all bad things are bad things because
No.
you lose these people and then you gain like the universe speaks to you. That's weird. It's a weird thing. That's a weird cycle.
Oh, 100%. Like I've dealt with that in a little, not the same, but not like in that world, but definitely the podcast world. You do see it where there are those that, at least on my end, where they'll, especially if you see you get another guest that they've had, it's almost like, well, why are you going after them too? But you're, no, they reach out like they want to come on here, they want to do that, or, and a lot of people I've seen, it's almost like they want to see you do good, but not better than them.
And
That's
it,
what I've seen a lot. And that's why I hold, there's people like he's coming on tomorrow, Matt Fatisse. Matt Fatisse is everywhere on, I love him so
mhm,
much. I will shout from the rooftops that he is one of the good ones. He is one of the people that like has people's backs and
mhm,
is so genuine. There's
mhm,
not like some agenda, right? Where,
mhm,
hey, let me help you with this because then you're gonna help and I'll help anybody, but what are your intentions? What are
mhm,
you doing? You're fine with me
mhm.
being if I'm down here. The minute if I get any sort of
Buzz.
buzz, which
And
I we got actually, the start of the year because we had Anthony Green on our show and I adore there
blessed.
there are no words how much like I adore him as a person, everything he did to set that up for us. He is just everything that went into it, the kindest guy.
Mhm.
The just that experience was so huge for me on such a bigger level than like, wow, I have this huge guest. It was like, oh my God, he is my favorite of all time. I have a Circus Survive tattoo. Like I
Oh.
love him so much. And the fact that he saw something in my podcast when he only goes on bigger ones, right? And not only did that, but then promoted it too, right? And
Yeah.
I was so like, and again, I was not gonna toot my own horn. I was just like, oh my gosh, the people that I saw that were willing to one share it
Mhm,
or listen or
mhm.
be like, wow, I'm proud of Lisa. This is so great. And then I saw the people that in the same space couldn't have said a word, didn't want
Yeah.
to do nothing. And it was again, I was all right until there was that buzz around my podcast.
Mhm.
Then it's like that. And you see that. And I just wish as creatives, whether it was musicians or podcasters or art, whatever it is, or just as people, we're not doing that because it messes
Yeah.
with your mental health. It messed with my mental health so much. Well, like, what did I do wrong? I just got this great opportunity that I was really excited about. Like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with that? What's wrong with
Yeah.
being proud of myself? And yeah,
Yeah.
they exist all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
It's such a weird thing to try and become a creative. Absolutely. And Anthony
mhm,
Green, by the way, congrats.
mhm.
Like good
Thank
job.
you. Oh gosh.
Fantastic. Like watching
Oh,
his evolution as an individual and just like seeing
hmm.
how like everything has progressed. A fantastic human being.
Oh,
You know, I don't know. It's just it's a terrible thing to witness. And you can spot them. You can spot them so fast.
hmm.
Nowadays I've definitely gotten a lot better at it because I'm terrible at like character judgment because
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser
Yeah. Same.
at the
Yeah.
core, but like
Yeah.
not in a sense of like I want something from you. It's like the world has done me dirty, like
Hmm.
dirty, and I've made my mistakes. I'm very open about the things that I have done because if I'm not open about them, then that feels like I'm hiding something from a new friend or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you just know all these things and know the truth about situations,
Hmm.
and not in a like, oh, I'm trying to get this to you before this person, because I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to
Hmm.
tell you exactly how everything went down. And people don't like that. And I've
Yeah.
noticed that uh, people don't like that because it helps you shine because your energy is way cleaner than people
Hmm.
that are trying to hide who they really are.
Oh, yeah.
And like you're gonna prosper. And also, you shouldn't discredit your podcast in any way just because it's smaller. Like that doesn't matter. Like you're
Yeah.
still doing what you love and you're still making a difference, no matter if two people do this or if like 23 million come into your podcast tomorrow. And I just want you to know that
Yeah.
because
No.
you're doing a great thing. You're doing a
Yeah.
great thing. And everything that your podcast stands for is amazing, by the way. Like I
Oh,
took a little gander and I
yeah.
was like, this is awesome, you know.
I,
But
I, oh, I appreciate that because so many people have said when we started it, oh, it's going to be difficult or it's too niche, it's too this because there's
yeah.
mental health. And I was like, you say that, but once we kind of got out there, and I credit TikTok to that by just putting whatever out there. Once we
Mhm,
got out there or so and so came on and had a good time, then they told someone, and that domino effect, I was
mhm.
like, well, I guess like maybe you were just saying that because like you thought, hey, wow, that's gonna set her apart than any music podcast out there. Wow,
Yeah.
that's like something authentic as opposed to like, a no disregard to any podcast talking just a
Mhm.
record. That's
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But it's a different thing, right? So I
Yeah,
think,
you're on the deeper side
yeah.
of things. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that don't want to face that quite yet. I think it's going to
Right.
become more of an influence later on, and you're a
Yeah.
little ahead of the curve, and that's
Yeah.
fine, you know.
Hmm.
Because that's kind of like a lot of my songs are sad, but they're like
Hmm.
angry in a sense, and you can
Hmm.
feel that. And I've had people tell me that they're too sad, and I'm like, okay. But then I find out that they're listening to it in private whenever they're having those hard times, and I'm like, that's why I
Yeah.
write music. I don't write music so you can sit in a room and be like, oh, I'm jamming this. I write
Hmm.
music so whenever you feel like nobody else is there and nobody cares, that you could have an artist specifically for that moment, that you're feeling like the entire world is against you and you just don't know how to take it out, and you just want to use that, like you want to use my art for that moment.
Hmm.
Because I've never been, I'm good with people. I'm not good with like crowds and stuff, anyways.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's like a reflection in the first place. Like anytime we play to a lot of people, I'm kind of like, I'm the most nervous person there, and the band's like,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, we're gonna do great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what if this entire crowd just starts going boo? And I'm like, ah,
Hmm.
like I
Yeah.
think about those things.
Yeah, that's me to a T. Like I'm like, this is okay. But if I ever had to do like a live something in front of people or doing this and
Hmm.
that, as someone that does suffer in their own mental health. Like I have an anxiety disorder, but I'm in the works of the more I do this and learning about certain things. I'm like, maybe it's ADHD. Like there's a lot to it where I'm like, there's more to it. And I think we're learning more about mental health. And obviously with our podcast, like I would love for you to open up in your own mental health, whatever you want to share. How has music been an aid to your mental health? In what ways? Maybe where other
Oof.
things didn't work, good or bad, right? Because we've had some people say, well, like, listen, it's not been the best mental health wise with the business side or this and that. And then some people say it's been so great. But for you, how has it been that aid?
You want me to be like honest, honest?
Yeah, yeah. Whatever you would like to do.
It's saved my life. Like anytime I feel some type of way, I know I can run to it. Like
Hmm.
I know that that's my escape. And rather than getting drunk and like blackout wasted like I used to, and rather
Yeah.
than going and using as many drugs as I want like I used to, or like it's helped clean that. It's helped bring out the best parts of me, it's made it to where like, man, whew, where I can express things that probably shouldn't be expressed, like
Hmm.
I'd rather express it that way than turn into somebody that I absolutely have to live in delusion with. I'd rather live in delusion being like, oh, I'm going to be a huge pop artist one day and this song is going to reach millions and millions of people because there's millions and millions of people that hear this and they're going to feel this way, rather than sit in delusion that I'm okay and I'm not actually okay, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I still get those down moments where I can't like leave the bed and I want to, and I have those like ADHD kind of like halts where I'm sitting on the couch. Like today was kind of like one of those things. I've been up since 4:30. So I went and I
Mm-hmm.
worked for a little bit. And then I came home and took care of my partner for a little bit. And then she cooked me pancakes. But the rest of the day, I didn't even want to play video games. Like it kind of got boring and everything. I was like trying to find something to do in between like this and the podcast. And I kind of got like stuck because I was like, I know I have this thing today. So I'm just going to like wait until this thing happens and then hyper focus afterwards, which I'm going to do afterwards
Mm-hmm.
because then I have a bunch of things that I need to go and accomplish. But like
Yeah.
music, whew, it has given me, it has shown me who is really there for me. It has shown me what doors I can actually open and how far I can get with this. It has been up and down. There are times where I was just so stressed out. I was losing hair and crying, just
Mm-hmm.
like, man, I'm not going to be able to do these things. And I had to like cut back and be like, not everybody's meant to be these superb, huge artists. I was like, and what if you're just kind of like a diamond in the rough? So why don't we stop focusing on the numbers, stop focusing on like getting paid from things and just start doing things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of settled down my mental health for a little bit because what really kicked this thing into overdrive was like 4 years, almost 5 years ago. I tried to do the things, you know. I tried to like get rid, you know, control alt delete me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was due to an immense amount of pressure to the way that people wanted to see me rather than the way that I actually was. And that really messed me up hard. Like I went to therapy. I got like I went through a divorce at the time too, and it was just all like my entire world was crashing. And just like that was right after hunting or like right after hunting season got done and everything. And I thought I was about to like be it, you know. I was sitting in the room with like some big artist wanted to feature with me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like not even asking for money. They were like, we just want to do it. They were like,
Yeah.
yeah, we like love what you're doing. And I'm like, gosh, damn. And you know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like shaking hands with people that I'm like, I've seen you on like, you know, like I've seen you on big number of YouTube videos and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So like what and imposter syndrome kind of started there, but then my entire world, which, you know, in retrospect, there was a good portion of it that was my fault. Like some of it seems like it wasn't supposed to happen that way. Like it wasn't handled properly. Like that, like I deserved retribution or something, but it just seemed like people wanted to hate me. And I didn't like that. And it wasn't like I did anything super crazy. It was just I'm human, you know, like and
Mm-hmm.
us humans, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I, as I've said and stated, I admit to a lot of things, but I will not admit or concede to something that I haven't done. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if I didn't do it, I'm not gonna let you sit there and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna look at
Mm-hmm.
you and be like, bro, you know that's not how it went down.
Yeah.
But all of these people wanted to perceive me in this like righteously negative way, and I was like, wow, this is my fault. Like I allowed this to happen. I allowed these people to come into my life to see me the way they want to see me rather than the way that I am. And they already seemed like they had a bitter taste in their mouth in the first place because they saw me go from this like not like this like oh he's never going to go anywhere artist to like writing something that everybody wanted to listen to, you know, like everybody came into the studio and was like, can we hear that one? And you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm hearing about this through a third party, and I'm like, that ain't happening. And then it happened like right in front of me, and I'm like, why are people like why do people like me now? You know, and I've
Yeah.
always been like the ugly duckling. I've always been the
Mm-hmm.
person that sits in the corner. I don't. People are not my forte. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for people to get to like me, but like the more people are around me, it's just like I start getting nervous. I'm like, what if I say the wrong thing? Da, da, da. And then
Mm-hmm.
I eventually just recluse in the first place because I'm like, oh my gosh, like because people say I'm too kind, and I'm like, why is that a bad thing? Like,
Yeah.
why can't I just be nice? Like, why can't that just be like the
Mm-hmm.
thing? You know, and a lot of these things made me question a lot. And I went through like growth and a lot of like breaking myself down and trying to like rebuild myself and like, okay, I can't let this happen again. So what did we learn?
Mm-hmm.
What are we never going to do again? And who are we going to look out for? And my partner, she likes to sit there and she likes to like tell me like, hey, be careful with this one. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't see that happening from this person. You know, she's very, very like good at picking out things like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that from her.
Yeah.
And it's just like it was the worst time of my entire life because I was like, there's no other option. I gotta, you know, like I gotta exit. I
Mhm.
don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be alive. I don't want to be around people.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, and I blamed myself. I blamed myself hard. And a lot of people don't know that I tried to take my life. A lot of people don't know that. Stomach pump, everything. I woke up in the hospital and I had to go away for a little bit. And it was just kind of like, I don't know if I should have put a trigger warning or something in between that,
Mhm.
but that's the real side to where like music and getting to a certain point made it to where I didn't want to be here, you know? And now it's like this weird thing that has like saved my life at this point because if I didn't have any type of other outlet, I don't know where I'd be, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been a wild ride,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow. Like, well, first of all, like, thank you enough for like having the trust and for saying this in here. And also, I'm glad you're still here because I know it's such a cliche thing when people say that. I'm glad you're still here. And then if you've been through it, you're like, okay. But even me going through such a difficult time, and when I would tell people something similar where, I didn't get to that point, but where I told people, I didn't think I would still be here. Like even my birthday, right? I'm like, I didn't think I'd still be here. And when I tell people that, it's you're either met with some people when you're open about your mental health, kind of we were talking about, like some people are okay with that and like, oh, that's who you are and you're saying this, but some people it's like, oh, well, that's I don't want to hear about that. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, why don't we want to talk about these things? Because something you just said could really help someone to say like, wow, someone's been there. They've been through the worst of it. They've seen the worst of it right now and what they've been through and they're here. They're talking about it and they've made it through. And I think some people that are going through it, especially now, everyone's going through something, whether it is mental health related, financially, but financially, like people don't realize too, like financially and finances and social issues are why we have a mental health crisis. Like they
Yeah.
go hand in hand and people don't
Yeah.
consider that. And when even like our country or people talk about mental health, they don't consider that maybe if we tackle certain things like that, maybe we wouldn't have. I mean, we still would, but they wouldn't, we'd be able to tackle them a lot better because
Mhm.
I myself we were going through a lot of financial stuff for like 4 years.
Oh man.
And it was the hardest my mental health had ever been. And, some people around us were great, but there was then some people were like, oh, we're here if you need anything. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, that's great. But usually when you're struggling, you're not going to reach out. I'm not going to call you up. I'm not that person to be like, hey, if I tell you I'm struggling once and then you react a certain way, I'm probably not going to go back to you. And maybe is that the best thing? Probably not. But I have to know there's that support there in mental health. And I think it's so hard. And we all go through it in different ways too, right? Like some people struggle and like I'm an isolator. That's me. I isolate so hard when I'm going through it. And that's like, even when people are like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. You're okay. Like, and now at least I'm comfortable with saying, like, no, I'm not. Where
Hmm.
before I would always say I'm fine. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not. Like, this is what's
Yeah.
going on right now. Like, we are in it. I'm in it. And again, like sometimes you're met with that support or sometimes not. And I mean, I'm really glad to hear, especially with your partner, that you have that support because it's tough. And if you just have that one person, at least for me, like
Hmm.
my fiance, he's my rock. Like whenever I'm really going through it and I catch myself of like, hey, like I'm really spiraling here, like I need you,
Hmm.
he's there more so
Hmm.
than anybody. Cause I mean, I love my friends and I love my mom. I love everybody, but like sometimes it's like,
Hmm.
it's different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I don't know. It's like some people can't help.
Hmm.
They will give you the words and they will tell you, hey, oh, it's okay, da 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 da.
Yeah.
If you're here or if you need anything, I'll be there, right? But
Yeah.
it's also like, how's your cup doing? Because if their cup's not full or if they're like struggling as well, you never know. And it kind of like
Yeah.
I was talking to my sister last night and I kind of felt kind of selfish because I was like, oh, nobody reaches out to me, you know, like nobody
Hmm.
comes like and talks to me about anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I was like, that's selfish. Like, why'd you say that? You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
like you know everybody's going through it right now. Like you can't be that person. And I'm trying to be that strong person. But every
Yeah.
now and then it like kind of slips out like that. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. You know, it's just
Hmm.
like right now it's not anything to do with you. Like I'm slipping a little bit, you know, like it's getting hard to be the strong person. And I just need a little time. Let me isolate. Let me restructure myself because I just found out that one of my aunts passed, so she was calling me
Oh.
about that, and I was like, but me and me and her weren't too close, but I know she was close to my dad. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out to my dad. So my dad
Mhm.
messaged me while I was recording a live version of Beg from my home studio, and I'm gonna we'll talk about that later. But then, I called him, I reached out to him to make sure he was okay. So she called me and she was trying to talk to me about it, and I was like, and she was like, "Are you gonna go to the funeral?" I was like, "I wasn't that close with Aunt
Mhm.
Susan." I was like, it feels weird, like that feels like pity me in a sense,
Yeah.
and I want to be there for the people that need it, but I don't want to be there to have to face something that I wasn't really a part of,
Hmm.
and we got into that conversation, and then she was like, well, why not? And I was like, I'm kind of going through some stuff. And then that's whenever that entire conversation happened. I was like, that was selfish. Like, you shouldn't have said that. And I should have, it's like little moments like that you realize, like, you kind of have to have your own as well as like being there for people. But if you can't fill your own cup, or if your cup's kind of empty, it's really, really hard to be there for other individuals. And there's a lot of people going through it. A lot.
Hmm.
Like, even my core group is going through, like, we have so many things to celebrate. And then
Yeah.
at the same time, it's just kind of like, wait, hold on, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like one of my friends just got engaged. Two of my friends just got engaged. And usually we do this thing where we go and we sit and we have appetizers and drinks and
Hmm.
we celebrate, but everybody's going through it right now. So we're like, when are we going to be able to do this?
Right.
When are we going to be
Yeah.
able to say congratulations? And that's like my core group. Like, all of us, oh, unbreakable, love everybody. And
Yeah.
but it's just like everybody's like scared, worried, and the people that don't say they're scared, or they feel like they're like on the winning team, they're not gonna they don't realize what's happening. And the people that are on the wrong side of history don't realize they're on the wrong side of history until history presents itself. And then you say, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
And with everything going on in the world, it's just more so that we need to be communities, and we need to
Hmm.
really, really, really hone in on like bigger groups of individuals just trying to be like, okay, we're going to get through this together.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a lot different right now than it has ever been. And I didn't realize the world was this scary until I grew up.
Oh, I know. I say that all the time. I'm like, I didn't think like when I was younger, you thought like the worst thing was like, okay, you had a book report due, and then now you grow up and you're like, man, I'm like, my parents were probably dealing with like similar things, maybe, right? And I didn't even know it, and they're trying to navigate this world, and it's like, yeah, wow, like and even talking about like having community. Obviously, what I love about this podcast is I've had a lot of male guests. I'm like, everybody said there's a
I love
big,
that.
everybody would decide like you were never going to get. And I'm like, yeah, my next like six people are male guests. So it's like exciting to have that. And I would love to know because there is such a stigma. And we're talking about mental health and everything you've been through and even forming community. Like there's such that stigma with male mental health. What would you like to see more in society do to help men's mental health? Like what can we do? Because I think any man, even my fiance, I love him to death. You
Mhm.
keep it in because
Oh,
you're
we do.
taught that. You're taught that.
We do.
You're taught that too, is like to keep it in and,
Yeah.
just move along, go
Yeah.
ahead. And whether it was his dad or just his friends, even like his friends,
Yeah.
we'd be out at like a barbecue and they're like, yeah, we as men, like, we don't talk about that. Like,
Mhm.
but you should. But even
Mhm.
though, like, okay, me saying you should isn't going to change anything. Like, I could say that
I
and
mean,
that guy,
it
that
might,
guy,
you never
it
know.
might, right?
You
It
never know
might.
what influences.
But like knowing this guy, I'm like, I love him to death, but I'm like, he probably was like, all right, whatever. Like, who is she? Like, just because I notice even with him, I'm like, he's someone that should talk about it. I want him to. So what would you like to see like done, or whether it's in your own circle or people you've seen? What do you think has to happen for, I guess, men and to open up more, or like,
One
or
of
even us, even like me as a partner, right? Like, what can us women do to help?
Okay, so a few things, and this isn't like, oh, you got to do this. This is
Right.
just these are things that have helped significantly. One, us guys, we're going to present the tip of the iceberg to our
Hmm.
partner. We know, and or at least a mentally strong and emotionally mature male is going to know, I can give you this much, but I can't
Hmm.
let you see all of it.
Hmm.
Okay. Like you don't need to be thinking that there's these issues, like I don't one and like yes, women there is no sex whenever it comes to provider. Okay. I'm a
Hmm.
huge advocate for that and everything. But if the male is mostly the provider, he's going to provide and he's going to do what he needs to do in order to be able to provide. And if that is like holding back mentally, then that's just part of it. But one of the things that, and one of the happiest moments, like of a time frame in my life, is me and the guys in my group used to get together and we would go to a bar one night a week. And that would be it. That would be it. Like all of us would look forward to that night with
Hmm.
just the guys. And we'd go and we'd shit talk and we don't really like shit talk. We don't like men
Right.
aren't we don't care about the person to our left or our right unless we're jealous.
Hmm.
And that's like whenever we start talking about another dude, that means that there's like a little bit of envy there, or
All
or
right.
or or this person is really a problem, but if they're really a problem, they won't be around for long, you know?
Hmm. Right.
Like they exit and you give them that conversation, fix it. You didn't fix it. Sorry, dude. You gotta go. You're messing up the whole vibe,
Hmm.
right? But we used to get together once a week and be me and four other guys, sometimes five or six other guys, and we would sit there and we would talk about everything, everything, financial, like what we're doing financially that will help us improve. How is life going? Are we having fun right now? We just talk about video games. It would range between those types of things and would go between person and person. And we always made each other feel comfortable. We always made each other feel involved.
Hmm.
And we also always took each other's advice because the number one thing that we were trying to do and accomplish, and I set up the whole thing because I was like, I just got out of therapy and I was like, what would be really great? I have all these guy friends now. Like, what if we just start doing this? Our lives significantly improved, like
Hmm.
significantly. Finances were amazing, work was amazing, partnership was amazing. Like 70% of all of our lives were so much better. And we didn't care about the background. One person or two people were living with their parent, the other person was living on their own. I've been on my own for like 7 years. And then like we didn't care about any of that. What we cared about is getting to the next point. And eventually like people fell off because they just weren't presenting themselves the way that they should have been presenting themselves. And we had to like figure out a way because these people were becoming problems and they were starting to, kind of like infiltrate and disrupt things. So we were just kind of like, okay, you got to go. But other things is like, it's okay for a guy to be vulnerable to an extent because there's certain things that guys just not sometimes need to keep to themselves. Their anger, got to keep that to themselves. Their sorrow, they got to find something besides drinking or like an
Hmm.
escape. Like whether or not it's just playing Pokemon cards, like whatever that little escape is, and you got to let him have it. That's like something that, like if it's video games, you got to
Yeah.
let him have that hour or 2 hours. Like
Yes.
let him play Fortnite and we'll let him play Call of Duty or
Hmm.
NBA, whatever it is. I personally am a Final Fantasy person, so I
Oh.
play Final Fantasy.
Oh my gosh, that's my fiance to a T. His Final Fantasy is everything to him. He's even got
Ah,
like his Seth Roth tattoo. Like he is so into Final Fantasy, and that's like even what you're describing. Like that's I always like so many people and us as women will say, "Oh, they're playing video games. Oh, they're doing."
yeah.
I let him have that time where it's like, all right, even if it's 2 hours, whatever. I can see what you're saying in that in him, where it's like he needs that. Like
Yeah.
that's his time. He needs to like be in that world and just
No
whatever he's going
interruptions,
through.
no
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Let him work it out because what he's like while he's doing this, because
Mm-hmm.
we will present the stone face,
Yeah.
but we are in our heads. We are
Yeah.
in our heads. We're not. I'm not going to say all of us are stressed out because some of us can hide a lot better.
Yeah.
And the more ego a guy has, the more scared he is on the inside. That has
Mm-hmm.
like always been because whenever I had like my biggest ego, I was scared to death. And
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm kind of like more like I'll figure it out, I'm very like, I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. We're just chilling.
Yeah.
Janitor, CEO, you both get a handshake type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta let them figure it out. And on a male side, you gotta be emotionally mature. You gotta be maturing and you gotta be figuring out answers. If you want to do something, you need to provide. If that is like where your goals and your like structure lies, foundation is what you need to give. and you need to create safe spaces for each other, you know, partners and stuff like that. Need to create safe spaces. Be like, okay, hey, you want to watch this TV show? I'm going to go ahead and let you do that. I'm going to go do my own thing for a little bit,
Hmm.
you know, and making sure that you always are communicating to a point to where you're always like, good. But men, we're simple. We're simple. We just need some space, need to work it out, and we just always need to be figuring out what we can do better on the inside, because then that can roll over to our personal lives. I don't like the entire like sex wars and stuff people have nowadays online, and I see way too much of it. And I'm like, some of these things, cool. Yes, these are
Hmm.
absolutely true. But some of these things, this is bullshit. This is boy talk. This is just
Hmm.
boys being stupid. And
Hmm.
mm, just irritates me a little bit because I'm like, a boy would say that. I mean, I would never,
Yeah.
you know?
I
Yeah.
think it's important to talk about men's mental health because there's different ways to approach it because
Hmm.
even my fiance, like he's been through therapy. You know, he was in a work-related accident years ago and really, really tough. And when he wanted to go to therapy, I thought it was so great because in the beginning he was not really for it. Didn't really want
Hmm.
to do it. Didn't want to talk about it. Now he goes to it all the time virtually, which is awesome that we are in that space to do that.
Hmm.
And it's like I wish more people, you can't force it, and I know that accessibility is a big thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it's so expensive and
It is. It is.
it's tough, but it's so
BetterHelp
important.
BetterHelp is a good alternative if you can't, like, just throwing that out there for
Yeah.
any or anything, is a
Yeah.
good alternative whenever, because I had to stop because, well, both of my jobs closed down and I've just been kind of doing the music thing and just making whatever money on the side. But
Yeah.
BetterHelp has some programs that it can help, and they're significantly a little less than what you would averagely pay. You know, I had insurance and all that stuff, but the economy is bullshit right now. So,
Oh,
you know, but
yeah.
you know, but BetterHelp and stuff like that. But like, it also, I want to go to one thing you said. It's like, oh, you know, you got to step in and be like, hey, comprehension is the number one thing. Because if
Hmm.
somebody's not willing to hear what you're saying, brick wall, you're talking to a brick wall. And
Hmm.
then so that we're like, some people will go all the way down until they lose everything. And then they'll finally realize. And even sometimes, then they're just kind of like, nah, I still want to go down this road, and some people just don't want to face that. And you know, it just depends. Depends on the individual, the maturity of the individual, the fact on whether or not they just want to keep on running or if they want to face things. And everybody has problems. Everybody needs to face things. Everybody needs to have somebody there. And a lot of people want to be like, oh, I'm a lone wolf. Da 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 da. Da.
Yeah.
Anytime I've met a lone wolf type, break that little barrier, and it's just a scared child. It's just
Hmm.
somebody that's never had somebody there for him. And I'm like, bro, it's okay. But then they get scared because they're like, this person saw me. What do I
Hmm.
do? Oh, this person's a bad person. Oh, this person walked with their left foot instead of the right foot. And then you're just kind of like, bro, like I was trying to be there for you. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
Yeah.
you gotta people need to learn that other people matter. Not everybody's attacking you. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's best there's a difference between attack and retribution, you know? Like if I'm trying to help you and I'm trying to show you that I'm trying to help you and I'm hearing you out and you're listening to me, that's retribution. If I'm deliberately trying to tear you down and make you feel like a piece of garbage, then I'm attacking you. And then sometimes attacking deserves resistance, you know? Like you just got to know when to swing and you just got to know when to talk.
Yeah.
We're all just lost souls navigating whatever is happening above us.
Yeah.
And once, but that's like step one right there. Like step
Hmm.
two is like realizing nobody has it figured out, no matter who you go to. But if somebody's helping you and somebody's supporting you, then what does it matter on who has it figured out? What does it matter what's going on? As long as like you have friends and you have a good community around you and you have people that are like willing to trust you and listen to
Yeah.
you and willing to like give you a second or a third chance. You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes you do have to cut the cord because
Yeah.
if somebody's obviously like miserable all the time,
Right.
then you got to figure that one out, you know, or if somebody's broke all the time, then you got to figure that one out, you know, like, but life's just waves. It's just waves.
Hmm.
And it's not what, oh man. Oh, one more thing on men
Yeah.
that need to do, or that men need to do for each other, is hold each other accountable and
Mm-hmm.
like give a sense of resolution. Don't just like, bro, like I'm gonna say this, bro, you're 33. Don't be checking out a 19-year-old. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that, And it's like it's different. There's, like you got to be hold people accountable. Like whenever I was going through a dating phase, there was a few that were too young, and I was like, bro, like no,
Mm-hmm.
like this is not happening. Like, and I tried to like draw that line clearly because they were like, oh, but I love your music and stuff. I'm like, exactly. Like, go ahead and just listen to them. Sometimes you just gotta, you gotta hold people accountable, and it took me a little while to like once I hit like the 28 mark, I was like, okay, clubbing and stuff, not
Oh.
for me, like things like that. And guys just need to be like, because some guys will be like, oh, they just need to hold each other more accountable, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And I
You
that
don't see that. You don't see that often.
yeah, it's more so like, oh, I got you, man. She's probably doing the same thing. Like, no, that doesn't. No, like that just needs to be that. And actually, despite like any type of like sex or whatever, whole like accountability. It's that simple. Like if home girl or home dude is seeing this person do this X, Y, and Z, why? Like
Hmm.
just give me why. What's going on? Like why are you running? What, you want to relive the younger days? You're not there anymore, bro. Like that time has passed. You had your moment. Like it's just you just gotta do whatever you gotta do. And you just gotta make sure that people are taking that all in. You know, that's a big one. But weaving in, and if you're trying to get people to be more vulnerable, just listening. That's it. Like how you're doing. This is
Yeah.
fantastic because you're just letting people like you let people talk, you listen and you take it in, just like and that's very nice to see because some people just like talk over each other and stuff. And it's
Mm. I always say to a lot of people, especially when I listen or watch podcasts, you can always tell that they're listening, but they want the next question. What's like my next question? And it's like there's nothing wrong with that, but the podcast and the people I enjoy, I'm like they're the ones where I'm like my main thing is like to have a conversation, right? And then there's
Mhm.
questions in there, but have a conversation because like that's what it's about. It's not about like, well, I have all these things down here, boom, 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 boom. And I better hit this question or that question. And it's always one of those things where it's like, yeah, as a society, like we don't always listen when someone's talking. We're either waiting
Mhm.
for a turn to speak. And I've noticed that so often where the people I talk to where I'm like, did you even just hear what I just said? Like in my
Mhm.
own world, like, did you even hear?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. We want to talk about that, and that's cool. That's great. But like, what are we're supposed to talk? Like we're
Mhm.
chatting and yeah. So it's like, yeah, whenever I can get on here, it's like great. We can talk about like
Mhm.
music and mental health. And I mean something because like when we were just talking about it, but we got away from it. But I wanted to touch on choke a little bit
Okay.
because that was one that gravitated towards me, but also vocally and a little bit go back to emo, right? It
Mhm.
reminded me of I don't know if you know the band, but Spill Canvas.
Oh yes, I get spell canvas a lot.
I was gonna say because I'm like he's had to have gotten Spill Canvas because not identically where it's like oh there's a Spill Canvas, but it the rawness of especially
Mhm.
Choke, right? Like whether it was like oh gosh, All Hail the Heartbreaker or one of those ones where
Mhm.
you're like I could hear those emotions and all that. Do you think
Mhm.
that's something in your music? I mean, you can maybe almost tell like I can tell as a listener, but is that something in your music that was so important to you? And kind of hearing you talk about it, it is like you're putting these emotions in music. You want those people to feel someone gets it. They're not alone.
Mhm.
Like, is that something that still like on this musical journey is so important to you to get across?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. I will not sign with a label. I don't
Yeah.
I will not do any of that if it cuts into the fact if they're like, oh well you can't, like I had a manager tell me the other day, they were like, you need to write something more upbeat. And I was like, that's not me. Say
Mm-hmm.
that's not me. That like yes, I wrote something more upbeat, but it's
Right.
still emotional. Like it still hits. It hits. I'll let it leave the message as a surprise, but it
Yeah.
hits a topic that people are afraid to talk about. It hits like choke was a very important one to me because it's the very first like really angry one. Like Beg was angry, but in a sense of like forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Like yes, I'm angry at you, but I forgive because I understand now.
Hmm.
I understand that there's mental health. I understand that there's
Yeah.
these things. I grew up, but Choke was strictly spite. It was strictly like, this is the best thing I can write at this moment,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do it by using this emotion
Yeah.
and showing the people that have like wronged me in a sense that I don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead, like bring it on. We could
Hmm.
scuffle, we could do whatever. Like, I don't care, but just know
Hmm.
that I'm willing to go to that point. But the spell canvas, oh man, my friend Ashlyn showed me the spell canvas way back in the day.
Yeah.
She was like, you need to check out these guys. And it was all over you, right? And I
Yeah.
was like,
Hmm.
oh man. And it's actually really funny because back in the day, I was in a band called the Hail Mercy. We opened for the Spell Canvas. That was
Oh,
like our second
wow.
show ever, was like opening for the
Wild.
Spell Canvas show.
Hmm.
And me and what's his name? Nick. I think it's
Yeah.
Nick. I still have him on my Instagram and everything. I haven't talked to him in forever. But once again, that's like that's one of those musical moments that like
Hmm.
something always is like drawing me back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, me and him talked and he was a hoot. He was like hilarious. And we sat there and we did a little redemption. I got to sing with him and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? It was a cool little thing. And I opened for them and the band Wild up in the parish at House of Blues in New Orleans. And that was a great time. And they are somebody that always like comes back to me for some reason, and people do compare me to the Spell Canvas a lot. And then I'm starting to get like newer bands and stuff nowadays. I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, no. Choke always delivers. Every time we play Choke, everybody's moving. We had a moment of realization on how things are going. We played at the Holy Diver in December with Stepping Sideways and Dark Effects. I think that, yeah, those two bands. I sat in the back majority of the time. My ears are starting to get old, but
Hmm. Oh, yeah. Same.
we were playing Choke, and I step away from the guitar and I give it to the guitarist. Guitarist does all the guitar parts, drummer, bass, everybody. And then I just have a mic in my hand whenever we perform that one live, majority of the time. And I held the mic out for the last chorus of Choke, and all you heard was people screaming it back. And I was like, there was like, my drummer didn't see it, but I love my drummer. Like, he is one of
Mhm.
my best friends, and he is like just so passionate about what he does. And I looked back at him, and like, because I looked at the bassist as like I'm holding the mic out, and he was like, and he's like doing his thing, like, and he's
Yeah.
on this side, and I look over there, and Ali, like, and my guitarist is just playing. And he's like, whoa. And I looked at
Yeah.
my drummer, and my drummer's just like, oh, and I was like, that's cool. That was fun. Just like one of those songs. And I think we have one tearjerker on the new stuff, not the album that's coming out
Hmm.
in a couple weeks, but on the new stuff we have one tearjerker. And from people that have heard it already, they're like, that is like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
Hmm.
It brings me back to whenever I was a kid. And I was like, that's exactly what it's supposed to do.
Oh,
Like, so it's just like my best friend Dwayne told me that I have like an art, not like making familiar songs familiar or unfamiliar songs familiar. And he was
hmm.
like, and you have a very good way about like presenting the emotion into the song. And I was
Yeah.
like, I appreciate that because it's just what I want to do.
Yo, I agree. You can really hear, I mean, even that of when you even hearing Choke, I immediately was like, oh, the spill canvas. What does this remind me of that? Because those emotions in the spill canvas, again, it's not like, okay, he's trying to be the spill canvas, but it's reminding me of that and took me back to like, that's the music I gravitate towards, is the ones you can really tell like what they're singing is is truth instead of like, okay, like again, like what your manager or other people saying, like, oh, maybe make something poppy where you can tell somebody is just putting something out to maybe have that better track or whatever's popular, right? And I think you can hear truth in someone like the music you're putting out or other people that do the same thing. It's like, oh, they get it. They've been there. I understand that. And I mean, obviously, like I know I've kept you long enough, but before I let you
You're
go, because this
fine.
has
You're
been so
fine.
great, I want to know with this new release, what are you looking forward to? Like just maybe probably having people hear it for sure. I mean, I want to hear this song. I can't wait to hear this when you're talking about the
Oh.
tearjerker and everything. Like that's gonna be like, wow. But for you, what are you most excited about to have this out?
With the album, because since I do have a few
Yeah.
things coming
Yeah, yeah.
happening with the album, I'm excited to kind of like show that the talent has been there and to have people just enjoy the entire ride of whatever it is that they take away from every song. And but with the new stuff, I want people to feel something. I want people to feel something so deeply that there's no way that they can take it any other way. And there's no way that they can misinterpret anything that is being said because I have a song that's for the fans. I have a song that's for the band. I have a song that's for the radio. I have a song that is for me. And then I have a song that is for people to use to say what they can't say with, just stuff like that.
Oh, I love that. Because that's the thing about music. That's what it is, you know? And for us as listeners, for sure, there's that song. There's always that music or artist you can go to when you're going through anything. And maybe you can't say those things or you can't articulate them to somebody else, but you know there's that song that brings you to that and allows you to feel that. And I love that. I can't wait to hear it. Like I'm excited to, luckily this will be out next week. So then maybe I'll figure it out. We'll get it out so
Oh,
that way
that's
we can
fine.
push
Yeah.
everybody
Do your
because I
thing.
want to push it. But yeah, like where can people, I mean, obviously I know where you are on social media, but if
Mhm.
someone's listening, where can they find you and check
Uh,
out everything?
any streaming platform. If you want to like get to know me personally, just add me on Facebook. That's where I do all my personal interactions, and I'm kind of manic on Facebook, like because one day it'll be pizza jokes and all this other stuff, and then I'll be posting like off the wall stuff, and then music.
Yeah.
But I don't use Facebook to promote my stuff a lot,
Hmm.
unless it's with like Reels or just posting between Instagram and all that stuff. Any streaming platform. If you want to see any music videos, just go to my YouTube. You can type in Kris Russ Music or KRISRUSS music, and then it should just bring you straight to it.
And all right, guys, that was my conversation with Kris. Again, such a wonderful conversation surrounding music and mental health. And I really appreciate Kris being so open in this conversation. It was definitely one of my favorites. And I really hope you guys check out the links below and go shoot him a follow and check out Kris because there's a lot more on the way. As for our show, if you're liking this thing even just a little bit, a positive rating or review goes such a long way, as well as a follow and a subscribe to our show. It's what helps keep all these episodes keep going. And I would love if you guys did that. It would mean so much to me. We will be back next week with a brand new episode highlighting an incredible record with a returning guest. And I can't wait to do that. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.